Hi, this is Wes Davis, HVAC Quality Assured Program, looking at Revision 8, the Energy Star Certified Home, specifically the HVAC Design Checklist. This is a high-level overview of what we'll be covering today, hitting the information flow changes again, as well as a specific, more detailed look into the design checklist. Under the old process, there was one checklist that covered both the design and the installation, and for some companies that wasn't a problem. However, for some companies it was a problem, and the rater was waiting on that last commissioning portion of the checklist before they could submit their documentation to get the home its certificate, and it was a mess. So Energy Star split the process. We've got the design checklist, which we'll be talking about today, and the commissioning checklist, which is discussed in another video. Now, as soon as that HVAC system design is completed, that checklist is filled out and sent to the rater. Another copy is sent to the builder along with your specs or floor plan or duct layout, etc., or either from the builder or the installing contractor. It needs to go to one of those two companies, and designers, that installing contractor will need a copy. So I would definitely hang on to one in case they requested one at a later time. Another aspect of this is that the designer must approve substitutions made to their equipment selection. So let's take a look at this new design checklist. The changes have been made. You can download a copy at energystar.gov. Up the top banner, click on the new homes. As soon as that pops up, you'll see partner resources sort of in the lower left-hand corner of that box. And when you follow that, you can click on program requirements, and you'll see all the checklists displayed there. Now, looking at the checklist, let's begin at the top. Look at some of those introductory instructions. One big item is that there's one checklist per house or specific plan configuration. You'll see some more information on that further down in the checklist. Number two is hitting it once again that this checklist must be passed on to the rater so that they can complete their process in getting a certificate issued to the home, and a copy must be sent to the builder and or that installing HVAC contractor. Next, let's look at the design overview section. This is capturing some administrative information about this specific design. You'll see a lot of familiar information, but some of the changes are that you need to specify to whom your services were rendered. Is this for the builder, or is this for the installing HVAC contractor? Also, it's going to collect some more information about the specific home to which this design applies. If this is for a custom built home, it's very simple. But if this is a home plan that's going to be repeated a lot in a production environment or in a housing development, then there are going to be some similarities, and this seeks to capture any unique differences between the home to which this particular design applies and a home that maybe look very similar but has enough characteristics about it that it changes the load profile and therefore demands or requires a different equipment selection. And so that's what's starting to separate the different plans and the different homes to which a certain checklist might apply. The ventilation section has been expanded. I think that you'll find that it's much easier to complete. The questions are more simple, direct, easy to understand instead of trying to address several things in one question. It's been broken out, so it's expanded, but I think that you'll find it very easy to complete. The next part of the checklist deals with the heating and cooling loads. One of the changes that jumps out is the outdoor design temperature by county. Energy Star created a reference, a tool to help consolidate some design temperatures, especially when there might be multiple design temperatures in a single jurisdiction. I would offer a warning that that jurisdiction may still cite Manual J and want you to use those design temperatures, and they may not. I would check with your local official to see how they're going to interpret this requirement, and remind you that Energy Star concedes and acquiesces to the local code official. So as a designer, it may be that the code official allows it, it may be that they don't. I just want to offer you a warning to investigate that before you use a design temperature that may wind up causing some conflict. Continuing in the heating and cooling loads section, again emphasizing mostly the differences between this checklist and the previous version, is that they're asking for the sensible cooling orientation specific. So if this is a custom built home and there's only one, then if there's only one orientation that you need to enter the sensible cooling load for. If this is a production model and it's going to be in this development facing this direction, or it might be around the corner or across the street, and I have multiple orientations, then you need to have the sensible cooling for each of those orientations. When it comes to latent cooling loads, well, latent is not impacted by the orientation of the home, so there's just one entry for that. And because sensible and latent equal the total cooling, and because sensible has potential for a wide variety of values, the total cooling values are orientation specific. For heating, much like latent, it's it's not affected, it's not impacted by the orientation of the home, so there is only one entry for the total heating load. When you turn the form over, we get to the equipment selection portion. You'll see a lot of familiar questions. The thing I want to emphasize is sort of that bottom half of that section when it talks about the equipment selection tolerances, and again offer a word of warning that the Energy Star has allowed a wider tolerance for equipment sizing, and that may conflict with what your local jurisdiction enforces if they're enforcing Manual S, or what the rater can allow, because the HERS rating requires compliance to Manual S. So as a designer, just want to offer a word of advice to check with the rater, check with your local code official, and ensure that you're not going to get yourself in a bind by following this Energy Star expanded tolerances if the other entity is going to be enforcing the stricter tolerances. And at the bottom of the checklist, the last section is the duct design portion, and this has been expanded slightly. Some new aspects are the design airflow for both heating and cooling. Before there was a design airflow, but it didn't specify, so now they're asking for airflow in both the heating and the cooling mode, and then the design fan speed for the heating and cooling mode. So as a designer, be aware of those two changes. Another change to this section is the new test and balance details. Energy Star is asking the designer to provide specific room-by-room airflow targets. It's orientation and material. There's enough room there that you can capture both the supply and the returns. I recommend you do both. And for custom homes, one orientation's all you need. For production homes, one orientation's all you need to fill out and send up to the rater so that the process can continue for giving that home its Energy Star certificate. But I recommend designers for production homes have the versions for the other orientations. Give those to the HVAC contractor. Provide that higher level of value to your customer, the builder, or the contractor, and ultimately to that consumer. For far too long, we miss this last crucial step. When we trip over the finish line, we don't do the job, finish the job correctly, and we have no air balancing. The rooms are still uncomfortable because they're getting too much or too little air. So for this part of the form, all that's required is that you do fill this out and send it on up to the rater for production homes. But for those production homes, I do recommend you demonstrate your value and have multiple versions of this portion for that installing contractor. For design build contractors that do both the design and the installation, we cover the commissioning checklist in another video. This has been a high-level overview, and while we've discussed a lot of information, the changes that have come about, I want to emphasize that in my opinion, this is essentially the same information. Yes, there's some expanded details. Yes, there's some improved questions, but I think it only makes the checklist better. The design process allows you to demonstrate your value to both the home builder and to that installing contractor if it's two separate companies. Plus, it helps capture that information that you need to pass on to that installer. As a designer, too often we spend all this time trying to get things right, and we don't always know that it gets implemented in the field. And as a reminder, as soon as this checklist is finished, it can be submitted to the rater. There's no need to wait any longer for those installation measurements to be recorded. When this checklist is ready, send it to the rater. This has been a high-level overview, so if you have questions, whether about the high level or about a detail of the checklist, please feel free to give us a ring or shoot us an email. Thank you for your time.